Hi guys, and welcome to the live show. It is Maths P1 today, and we are going over calculus. And we've got Tamlin with me.
Hi everyone, how are you doing?
Hopefully good. And how are you, Tamlin?
I'm good. I'm excited for tomorrow. I think it's an exciting day coming up. So I hope everyone's looking forward to it. And if nothing else, getting it behind us.
Exactly, guys. You're so nearly there. Just keep faith, and you guys can do this. We do believe in you. Somebody said to me, good luck to all the matrics, but you guys can do this, and we know you can. It's all about positive attitude.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
For
Okay.
sure.
So now what we're going to do is, Tamlin, I'm going to send you to the board while I do my thing.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, as you know, you need to join us on facebook.com/learnextra. You can also chat to me, Indy, on Twitter @learnextra. We are here to help you with any questions you may have. I know that there are a lot of you watching today because I've been watching on the page, and the mindset has been asking for pure maths for so long, so finally the day has arrived. Guys, also, if you've been watching the page, you will have been seeing Level Up. And what Level Up is it's a competition where we are giving away a PC tablet to one lucky viewer. That's you guys sitting at home. And what you need to do is you need to help our little or large community grow. At the moment, we are sitting on 23,622 likes on the page. And we need to get up to 23,700 to unlock Level 2. So what we've done is that we've shared a post which has the competition giveaway. And what you need to do is you need to share it with a friend and tell all of your friends to come and like the page and make sure that we manage to level up. I am going to repost it now, so keep your eyes peeled to the page. That's facebook.com/learnextra. And I'm also here to help you with any questions you may have. So what I think we're going to do is that we're going to get to the learning because that's important. But what I really need to ask you guys is please send us specific questions. If Tamlin's going through something and you don't understand, post onto our page, post onto Twitter, and I can stop Tamlin and we can go through it as we go along. Okay? Tamlin, let's get the ball rolling.
Right, let's get going. Right, grade 12s, welcome to everybody, and I hope you guys are all feeling confident and just ready to get stuck into tying up all the last little loose ends before that exam tomorrow. What we're going to start off with over here today is that we just want to clarify a small error, which a lot of you being absolutely on the ball managed to pick up earlier, that was made in a calculus question. So just to clarify so that nobody's feeling unsure, let's have a look at it and see what the mistake was. And in fact, you know what, guys? You can always learn from a mistake, okay? So any mistake that gets made, just learn from it because these kinds of things happen in an exam and they're easily avoidable, but they also happen quite easily. So you just always got to be careful. What the question was that was dealt with in the broadcast was that we had f of x, which was negative 2x squared plus 1, okay? And the question asked us to determine f of negative 2, and the question then said, what does your answer represent? So what we already established over here was that the value for x, which is inside the bracket over here, was negative 2, all right? And what you needed to do was to substitute it into your equation, which is what was done absolutely fine. So this 2, I'm just going to go over it in purple so you can see where I am. That negative 2 got substituted into the equation. So far, everything's fine, all right? This is where a small error got made. When we square it, remember, you've always got to follow the rules of BODMAS. BODMAS being brackets first, you raise to your exponent. Only once you've dealt with those do we worry about multiplication and finally addition and subtraction. So this is what we needed to make sure we did. We had to square the bracket of negative 2 first. So this negative 2 that is sitting outside the bracket would have stayed as is for now. Negative 2 squared would have become positive 4. And then we had the plus 1 at the end. And negative 2 times by 4 is negative 8 plus 1, leaving us with an answer that should have actually been negative 7. Okay, so it was a really small mistake that was made with this negative that wasn't multiplied into the bracket. And I know most of us are guilty of doing that, so we've just got to be careful, okay? And finally, what does it represent? So let's just take that away. That's supposed to be negative 7, and that obviously represents the y coordinate, okay? If you've got an x coordinate, by subbing it into the equation, what you get out is your y coordinate, okay? Just following on from there, guys, the question that followed asked us to calculate the average gradient between the points. So we had the value of -2, and what we've now fixed up is the fact that it's a 7, okay? And from there, once you had that correct coordinate, to work out your average gradient, remember it is simply your change in y over your change in x, which we can translate to saying y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so I hope that that fixes that up for you guys. Again, well done for picking that up, because if you spotted it, you're on the ball, you're seeing little things that need to be watched out for. So well done for seeing that. And let's carry on with the next question. Okay, we're going to stick with calculus for now. Calculus, guys, as you know, is going to be a very big part of your paper tomorrow. So we need to make sure that as much as you understand all the interpretations, we really want to drum in the basics here. We want to make sure that everybody is clear on things like what is a derivative. Okay, I know you guys use the word a lot, but take a second and think about it. Do you know what a derivative actually is? Okay, and if you're not sure, make sure you write this down. When we work with the derivative, we are working with the gradient of your tangent. Okay, a tangent, remember, is the rate of change at 1 point. All right, so guys, that is crucial to understanding your calculus. Make sure you understand that and remember that when we're doing interpretation questions. All right, let's have a look at what we've got here. This is very possible in terms of a question, and let's see what we've got. It says the graph represents the functions of f and g, with f of x being ax cubed minus cx minus 2, and g of x being x minus 2. Okay, so we've got those two equations. Point A, they've told us, is negative. We've got point A and the other point, which is -1 and 0. Okay, fine. And the intercepts of f are, there we go, those are the x-intercepts. The graph of f and g intersect at A and C. Okay, so this is what we have over here. And the first question is asking us to determine A. Okay, let's just take a moment to look at this little point A over here. That A is an x-intercept, all right? And we know that because it's crossing my x-axis, that being my x-axis. And what we know about an x-intercept, guys, and this doesn't only apply to cubic graphs, any graph, if you are working with an x-intercept, you are letting y equal 0. Okay, so the y is equal to 0. And in fact, it's actually the x-intercept of both the straight line and the cubic function, so of the f and the g. All right. Now let's see. Right now, I don't know what the cubic equation is, all right? What I do know is the equation of my linear function. I know that equation. And we said earlier that it was x minus 2. Hey, let's just double check. Yeah. Okay, so right now, this is the equation that I know. It's going to have to be the one I'm going to work with for now. Okay. So point A is the point where that linear function does cross the x-axis. So therefore, let's let y equal 0. All right, and if I bring my 2 over, we are going to land up with positive 2, being the x coordinate, and obviously the y coordinate will obviously have to be 0. So the answer, what are the coordinates of A? A is the coordinates of 2 and 0, and that's a pretty good start. Okay, let's see what the next thing they want from us. Now they want us to show by calculation that A is 1 and C is -3. Let's just point out where A and C actually are. That's the value for A, and that's the value for C. All right, so we just got to show by calculation how we get the value of A and how we get the value of C. All right, so essentially what we're doing is we're finding the equation of your cubic graph. All right, so guys, this is what we need to look out for. At the moment, I know that I've got this point here, which again was 2 and 0. And I've got this point over here, which is -1 and 0. And do you guys agree with me that both that point over there and this point over here are both x-intercepts of your function? Okay? Now, if that's what you have got, if you're sitting with the x-intercepts and you're actually having to find the equation of your graph or your cubic graph, you're going to start with this standard formula here. We're going to say y is equal to a x minus x1 multiplied by x minus x2 and multiplied by x minus x3. Okay? And each one of those x1s, x2s, and x3s represents an x-intercept. Okay, now here's another thing to watch out for. If you've got a cubic graph that is bouncing off your axis there, can you see that that point actually doubles up as a turning point and an x-intercept? Okay? If you have that, when you substitute it into your equation, you are going to fill in x. Now, the point was -1, so therefore it's going to become +1. And you are going to fill that in twice. Okay, so with the point that it bounces off, you actually square that. You write that in twice. And the other x-intercept was 2, so therefore filling it into my equation, it becomes x minus 2. Okay, so that's step 1. Now we have another small problem that I've got a variable of a, I've got variables of x, and in fact there's also a variable of y, which we need to solve for. So, at this point, what you're going to do is look at your graph, and I want you to find me one other point that your cubic graph passes through. And if we look carefully at what information we've got, we can see that this point over here, which is the coordinates of 0 and -2, is a point on your cubic graph. So where x is the x's are going to get subbed with 0 and the y with -2. So this is what we're doing. Everywhere you see an x, we're putting a 0. And everywhere you had a y, we put -2. So 0 minus 2. All right, so therefore, what does that give us? -2 is equal to a. I've got 0 plus 1, which is just 1. 0 plus 1, which is just 1. And 0 minus 2, which is -2. Okay? And that's going to give me -2 is equal to -2a. So therefore, 1 is equal to a. Great, all right. And what we do with that 1, guys, is we take it all the way back to there. All right, we sub it into the a over there. So we say y is equal to 1. I had the bracket of x plus 1 squared, and I've got x minus 2. Now to finally get the equation, it is a case of multiplying out. So I'm going to FOIL out my bracket of x squared, therefore 2x plus 1, and my bracket of x minus 2. I've got a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. So what's going to happen is that this x is going to multiply with all 3 terms in my trinomial bracket, and -2 is going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply it by all 3 terms. Okay. So we have got 1. This is going to become x cubed plus 2x squared plus 1x. Then I've got -2x squared. I've got -4x. And I've got -2. Okay, I hope you can all see what I did there. And let's tidy up. I've got x cubed, which is the only one, so that's going to stay as it is. 2x squared minus 2x squared quite nicely cancel out there, so that's done. I've got 1x minus 4x, which is -3x, and then finally I have got a -2, which is the only constant term we have there. And lastly, guys, this 1 that's sitting outside the bracket, 1, if we multiply it into the bracket, is not actually going to change very much, so we can drop it. We can, well, not necessarily drop it, but if we multiply it in, it becomes x cubed minus 3x minus 2. So, what was the standard equation? Let's just go right back to the beginning over here for a second. Ax cubed minus cx minus 2 was our equation. So, y is equal to ax cubed is equal to ax cubed minus cx minus 2. And they wanted us to prove that a was 1 and c was -3. And do you guys agree that we actually have managed to do that? There's my value for c, and there's my value for a. All right. Guys, that is how it gets done if you have got the 3 x-intercepts and you have to find the equation of your cubic graph, which I'm sure by now you've done enough past papers to know is a very common question and can certainly influence a lot of follow marks from there. So, you often need to make sure you get that in order to carry on from there. So there we go. All right, let's see. We got still on the same graph.
Should we go to a break, Tamlin?
Already.
I know already. But we got to have a break because during the break is a nice time for me to show Tamlin all of the questions on the page and everything that you guys are thinking and wondering about. Guys, there's no such thing as a silly question, only the one that is asked after exams. So please, now is the time. Let's do this together. We are a team. Help each other out on the page. Don't forget that this page is not for us. It's for all of us. Before we go, Nara says, wow, I can't believe that this is our second last live show. Thanks at Liberty, and we are ready for the exams. Guys, we are with you all the way. Kashifa also says, Eep, hello Indy. I can't believe, she was thinking of creating a new Facebook account so she can like the page. Don't do that, guys. Just get your friends to like the page, and let's unlock level 2. And Tando says 44 likes to go to unlock the level. We are so close. All of the names from the shares are going in this little box. If we reach, if we unlock level 2, we could be pulling your name out of this here box. So what we'll do is we're going to take a break. See you now. Hi guys, and welcome back. We've been having a look at some of the questions on the page. They are fantastic. Keep them coming. We will try and go through as many of them as possible. If there's anything that you're really struggling with, please email it to helpdesk@learnextra.co.za. Another thing I just wanted to tell you guys as well is that we are still having our 21st birthday on the 21st of November with 21 mindsetters. I know a whole bunch of you have sent in what makes you a mindsetter, what you think a mindsetter is, and your entries have been taken in, and you are in, and we will be letting you know whether you are a winner. But if you would like to do it, please email us win@learnextra.co.za and let us know what you think a mindsetter is, or what makes you a mindsetter. Okay guys, we are so close to leveling up. Let me have a look here. What number are we on? We are on 23,681. So now I've actually got this awesome PC training tablet, which they've sponsored, so thank you so much guys. It's fantastic. You can surf the web, you can email, you can go into YouTube, and it is also an e-book reader. You might have seen the ads during the break. Samantha got hers, and I do know that Whitney, if you're watching, you won the tablet yesterday. We want to phone you, but your phone is off, so if you are watching, switch it on so we can talk to you in studio. So now, without further ado, Tamlin, what I'm going to do is I am going to ask you 2 questions from the page. Okay, let me just have a look here. See, now we've got so many messages that I think it might have even taken over. Hold on. Recent posts. See, they're on the ball. Do you?
Yes,
do you?
I
Okay,
do.
okay.
So
Start with the one.
while
Then
you're looking for it.
Okay.
The one question was, would you be able to take would you be able to take A equals 1? Remember, the previous question said prove that A is equal to 1 and C is equal to -3. So the question was, can you take A and sub it into the equation and kind of prove it's equal? No, you cannot do that, okay? They're telling you to prove that A is equal to 1, so therefore that needs to ultimately be a final answer that you reach. You can't actually use that and sub it into the equation. So unfortunately, guys, you are not allowed to do that. You're not going to earn any extra marks if you do that, so please avoid that one.
Tamlin,
yes.
I've just got a little announcement. Level 2 has been unlocked.
Oh, well done.
Guys,
Awesome.
yes, level 2 has been unlocked. So level 2 competition is now closed. We are going through the shares. So if you guys shared the 2 artworks, then your name is going into the box for the draw for this PC training tablet. We will announce the winner at the end of the show, as well as post the next level challenge, level 3. Also, don't forget, every time a level is unlocked, what's going to happen is that we reveal a piece of a code or a piece of a puzzle. And eventually, once you've given away 12 of these babies, what we're going to do is we're going to tell you what the final grand prize is. And guys, I promise you, this is going to be the biggest prize that you have seen this year. Don't want to take any more time away from Tamlin. Well done for unlocking level 2. You guys are amazing.
That's great.
Hey?
Well done, guys. Okay, and then very quickly, the other question that was asked is that if you weren't given the turning points and you weren't given the x-intercepts, what information would you be given to find the equation of your cubic function? You guys can be pretty sure that you're going to be given one of the 2, okay? So don't stress too much. If you are going to either be given the x-intercepts, as we did in our previous example, or in this example, or if you don't have the x-intercepts, you will be given the turning point. And in calculus, if we have got turning points, we are working with the derivative equals 0, okay? So I'll kind of see if I can work that into this equation just to help you out with that a bit. Okay. But let's carry on with this cubic function over here. We've got the equation, and the next thing they're asking us for is actually for the value or the coordinates of the turning point. So guys, please remember that as soon as we're working with turning points, another way we can refer to that is your stationary points, and that is always where your derivative is equal to naught. Okay. So, as I said, if you were having to actually find the equation of your graph and the two turning points were the data that you were actually given, then what you would do is you would take the equation of f of x is equal to naught, and you would substitute the coordinates of b and the coordinates of that turning point into the derivative. And ultimately where you would go with it is a simultaneous equation, and you would solve for the missing values. So that, I hope, answers the question that if you didn't have the x values, you would either then have the turning point, and that's what you would actually do with it. Okay. All right, let's let our derivative equal naught. Okay, so derivative over here is going to be dy over dx. The reason why I'm using that notation is because my equation started with y and it's in terms of x. Okay, so dy over dx is going to be equal to 3x squared minus 3. And remember, with turning points, you let that equal naught, and we solve for x. I'm going to take out 3 as a common factor. And because we've got a naught on that side, we can get rid of the 3. And if I factorize, we're going to get an x minus 1 and an x plus 1. So that means I've got two x coordinates of my turning points, x at 1 and at negative 1. And in fact, guys, if you go back and look, we already knew we had a turning point at negative 1. That was already there for us. So what we've worked out is that this y, the x coordinate at least, is 1. So to work out the y coordinate, we then sub it back into the original equation. So we put it back into the 3xx times by 1 minus 2. So what's that going to give us? The y will be 1 minus 3 minus 2. So we've got negative 5 plus 1, which is going to give us negative 4. So that's the coordinates of b. It's going to 1 and negative 4. Okay, I hope that you will see that clearly. All right, guys, so that's turning points. These are all marks that we should all be gathering up as we're going through the paper. These are all the ones that are, we should be able to see this and immediately know what it is that we need to do with it. So be confident with these questions, because these are the ones that are going to get you your marks. Okay. Right, let's see what else they want from us. Show that the line BC is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so we're wanting to basically prove that that line over there is a flat line that's parallel to the x-axis. Now, in order to do that, guys, remember, if you've got a flat line, it would mean that your gradient has got to be equal to 0, okay? So what I would actually do then is say, to prove that BC is parallel to the x-axis, what we can do is work out the gradient of that line. We can do our change in y over our change in x, and we can work out, and basically you would work out that it's equal to 0. Okay, so any kind of horizontal line, you're going to have a gradient of naught. Okay, right, let's see what we've got here. Right, the x coordinate of the point of inflection of f. All right, now this is also, if you know it, you know it. The point of inflection, what we do is take the second derivative of our function and we let it equal 0. All right? If our original function was x cubed minus 3x minus 2, the first derivative, so let's just call it f dash x, okay, would be 3x squared minus 3. So then the second derivative is going to be 6x, okay? And what we do is we let that equal naught, and we solve for x, all right? And I'm actually going to land up with the value for x of 0, okay? And if I sub naught back into my equation, it's going to land up giving us 2. So the point, negative 2. So the point of inflection is naught and negative 2, which is in fact that point over there, all right? It's the halfway mark between those two turning points where it goes from going up to down, okay, and the gradient of your tangent changes from being positive to negative. Okay. And let's see, I think this is our last question. Okay, this is also quite common. It comes up quite often. And again, guys, if you know more or less how to interpret it, they're not that difficult. But I know that they seem quite difficult when you read them at first. So let's see what we can do with this one. The turning point, let's just recall, was 1 and -4. We're going to need that for this question. Okay. It says write down the values of k for which f of x is equal to k will only have one root. Now, first things first, f of x was x cubed minus 3x minus 2. And they're telling us now that it's equal to k. All right? So, guys, when you have it equal to k, the first thing I want you to do is bring that over. All right? So you've got x cubed minus 3x. And that's going to be minus 2 minus k is equal to 0. Now, this is the critical thing, is that this over here, the negative 2 minus k, actually now represents the y-intercept. All right? And the question essentially is asking this. What would the y-intercept be if my graph only had one root? Now, in order for it only to have one root, it's going to have to move. At the moment, it's got one root over there, and it's got a root over there. If this moved down, in fact, anything further than what it is at the moment, it's going to have just one root. It will only be crossing the x-axis then at that point over there. Now, this is what we do. We say, okay, if it's got to move anything further down than where it is, it means that the y-intercept would move further down from where it currently is. And currently, the y-intercept is at -2. So therefore, in order for us to have one root, my y-intercept has got to be less than -2, all right? Which means that k is going to be less than that. This -2 is going to move over to the side to become +2, which is actually going to give us 0. And if I divide by a negative, my sign is going to turn around. So therefore, the answer for k in this case is that your values for k have to be anything greater than 0. And if that's the case, you would only have one x-intercept for your function over there. All right, so it's all got to do with where is your turning point, where is your x-intercept, and where do they move as you move the graph up and down to satisfy what they're asking. One root, two roots, no roots. Okay, you've got to look at it carefully and interpret it like that. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to move on now to another part of calculus, but it is working with our derivatives and all the rest of it. So, in fact, let's go to this question over here, which once again is an absolute, definite, for sure question, and that's first principles, okay? So I know by now you've done lots of it. I'm sure you're all very, very well practiced at it. But this is one of the things, guys, if you've practiced it enough, you should not be getting this wrong, okay? So it's easy marks that you should be getting in your exam. All right. Our first principles formula is that our limit where h is tending towards 0, where f of x plus h minus f of x all over h is our formula. All right? If f of x is equal to 3x squared plus x, then what we need to be clear on is that f of x plus h is equal to exactly the same formula. It's just that where you have an x, you're now going to replace it with x plus h. Okay. So therefore, I've got -3. I've got x plus h, which is getting squared, plus, and then instead of x again, I've got x plus h. All right. So we've got equals limit h tending towards 0. By now, we also know that we do not get rid of that. We keep that limit all the way down our sum until the last part of it when we sub our limit into our equation. So the value of f of x plus h is now all of this. Okay, so f of x plus h is equal to -3 x plus h squared plus x plus h minus f of x. Now, f of x is the original function, which was 3x squared plus x. All right, and this is all over h. Okay, we've got our equals, limit h tending towards 0. And what we need to do now is just very carefully multiply everything out. So we've got x squared. I've got 2xh. I've got h squared. I've got an x plus an h. I then have got plus 3x squared. And I have got minus x. And this is all over h. Okay, remember that's in a bracket. This negative 3 needs to distribute into the bracket, so we've still got our equals with our limits of h tending towards 0. And we've got negative 3x squared. I've got negative 6xh. I've got negative 3h squared. Okay, and all the rest of it for now is as it is. And it's all over h. And again, we write our limit. So please, guys, please don't lose marks by not writing your limit. It's a very silly way of losing marks. Now we cancel out. So negative 3x squared, positive 3x squared cancels. Positive x, negative x cancels. And I'm sure you'll remember from me saying this a number of times, a good checking point at this stage is that if something does not have an h, it must cancel. So if you're sitting with something that doesn't have an h, go back and check your working because something has not worked out there, okay? Right, so now what we have to do is we take our negative 6, let's just tidy it up, xh minus 3h squared plus h, and it's all over h. And remember with limits, with normal limits and with first principles, is that the problem is that you cannot just sub the limit into your equation and land up with a denominator of 0. Okay, so anytime we're working with limits, we have to actually get rid of that denominator so that we avoid getting a naught down below. So we avoid getting an undefined solution. Okay, so therefore, what we then have to do to fix that problem is we take out h as a common factor, and this is a standard method. Okay, so that's come out. That's going to leave me with a 3h, and I've got a plus 1. And it's all over h. And this is where our problem gets solved because the h's then cancel each other out. So at this stage, guys, finally, we're not going to write limit where h tends towards 0 because I'm going to now substitute the limit. I'm going to substitute 0 into your h's, which then leaves me with a negative 6x plus a 1. And that leaves you with your derivative. Okay, so guys, we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we're now going to look at the derivative, but not by first principles, by using your rules of differentiation. So don't go away.
Okay, so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break. We cannot believe that we have unlocked level 2. We are posting level 3 on the page shortly, and what you need to do with that post, guys, is that you need to share it to get an entry, and please only share it once. We don't want to spam anyone. You've got to remember that you've got to be responsible on social media. So what we're going to do after the break, I've got a question here that I'm going to ask Tamlin. Keep those questions coming, guys. It's very important that we get through everything today. See you now after the break. Hi guys, and welcome back. Okay, you've got a whole bunch of questions on the page. That is awesome. Keep them coming. Just to let you know, guys, about level 3 that is coming up, when we do post the artwork, what I meant to say is try not to post it just onto your page. You can share it with as many people as you want, but we want new likes, new mindsets, so try and share it on your friends' pages that you know haven't liked the page yet. So now I'm going to start off with a question from Kashifa, and she asks, she says, Indy, please ask Tamlin if it's okay to do the numerator of that equation first alone and then put the answer in the equation afterwards. And what she said is that she finds it 10 times easier, but she doesn't know if it's fine.
Okay. What she's asking is actually quite valid, and as long as you just set it out correctly. Okay, so what you need to do is, if you find it easier to just work out the f of x plus h part first, do that. That's absolutely fine. But once you've worked that out, then you do need to put it into the actual format where you've got your limit, h tends towards 0. But at that point, you actually have kind of the simplified version of the f of x plus h part of the equation, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So there's no problem with you doing that, as long as you don't forget to sort of just fill in your limits and make sure that it's all set out properly. First principles is quite sticky with their setting out, so don't lose marks unnecessarily. But working out the f of x plus h part first, there's no problem with that. So you can go ahead and do that if you find it easier. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's quickly have a look at our rules of differentiation. And then there's actually one of our learners has asked us a question on that. So I'm going to do a couple, and then I'd like you, then we're going to have a look at that one question. Okay. All right. Now we're not interested in first principles. So we're not doing first principles. We are just going to apply the rules, the shortcut rules. Okay. So they are asking us for our f dash x equals, and we're looking essentially for the derivative. Now, there's a couple of things to watch out for when we are applying our rules of differentiation. You may not have any roots, okay? So any kind of surd that you've got in your sum, you've got to get rid of. And remember, anything where there's a denominator with an x in it, you've got to get rid of that, guys. It's got to come up to the top, okay? All right, so let's see what we've got here. I've got 4x minus 3, and this is being squared. So both are getting multiplied, okay? So foiling it out, I have got a 16x squared. I have got 4 times 3, which is 12. So negative 12, another 12 is negative 24. And we've got positive 9. So now that's this as it stands. In fact, let's just correct myself here. We don't put that dash just yet, okay, because we're not finding the derivative yet. We are actually just simplifying the original function as it stands. So that's the original value. Right, now we are ready to find the derivative. So now we're ready to actually fill in the notation f dash x, and we apply our rule. 2 gets multiplied to the coefficient. So 2 times 16 is 32. And remember, once you've done that, guys, you subtract 1 from your exponent, leaving me there with just x to the 1. There's an exponent of 1, which if I multiply it by 24, gets to negative 24. And if I subtract 1 from 1, we're left with 0. Now remember, anything to the power of 0 is actually 1. So if I'm just multiplying 24 by 1, it's going to just be 24. And anything where there is no x gets dropped from your derivative. So in fact, that's the f dash x of our first question. The next one, okay, they're asking for, just look at the notation, dy over dx. And guys, that's because we're looking for the derivative of y in terms of x. Okay, so that's the way, that's why they're writing it, the derivative in that form. Okay. All right, here's the big problem. I have got this surd in the denominator. So it's a double problem here because first of all, it's a surd, and secondly, it's in the denominator. So that cannot happen, all right? So before we do anything, do you first of all see that I'm writing y equals because it's not finding the derivative yet, so we're just simplifying the original equation or the original form. So I've got 2, and what this is going to become is that to get it out of its surd form, we take the exponent and we divide it by the surd. So it becomes x to the 3 over 4, okay? Now having done that, I don't want it in the denominator, so this is going to have to move up to the numerator. The 2 is going to actually stay where it is. That is not a problem in the denominator. It's the x to the 3 over 4 that was a problem. Now, when I move it up to the numerator, do you guys see it becomes x to the negative 3 over 4? And that's what we do with exponents when we move it up and down. Hey, we change the signs. So that's what we've got there. So now we're ready to find my dy over my dx. Okay, so let's see what we've got. I'm going to take negative 3 over 4, and we're going to multiply it to the front, which is giving us negative 3 over 4. X, and if I subtract 1 from it, now remember 1 as a fraction is anything over itself, so I can call that 4 over 4. That's going to leave me with negative 7 over 4, and let's not forget that this is all still over 2, hey? Okay, so let's see now. We've got, let's simplify, let's tidy this up. Instead of writing it as a fraction over a fraction, I've got 3 over 4, I've got x to the negative 7 over 4. And instead of dividing it by 2, I'm going to times it by 1 over 2, all right? That's going to give me negative 3 x to my negative 7 over 4, and it's over 8. Okay. And finally, let's not leave any exponents as negative, which means that the 3 is going to stay where it is, the 8 is staying where it is, but the x is coming back down to the bottom, and it will be positive 7 over 4. Okay. All right, so that's just a bit of manipulation working with surds. And just remember, you can't have it as a surd, and you cannot have it in the denominator. All right. Okay, this time we're finding the derivative. The notation, once again, is slightly different. This time they're giving it to us as dx and then the bracket of the function. Now, that basically is saying calculate the derivative in terms of x of, and they've given us the function on that side over there. We need to simplify all of this, okay? There's a big problem here because I've got an x squared in the denominator, and we know that we cannot have that. Okay, so with this notation, grade 12s, we keep the d of x where it is while we are simplifying our sum. It's only when we find the derivative that we write equals. Okay. Okay, well, here's the problem. I'm going to write it a bit bigger over here. I've got x squared minus x minus 6, and it's over just one denominator of 2x squared. All right? Guys, if you're trying to simplify this, if you have only got one term at the bottom, all right, I really suggest this is what you do. You take every term in the numerator and you just split it, and you give each one their own denominator. So we take x squared, and you write it over its own denominator of 2x squared. I take x, and I'm going to write it over the own denominator of 2x squared, and 6 over its own denominator of 2x squared. And then let's just simplify each one on its own. So therefore, I've still got dx equals, and we are just going to simplify. The x squareds can cancel, so we're left with 1 over 2. That x can cancel with one of those, so I'm left with 1 over 2x. And 2 can go into 6 3 times, so I'm left with 3 over x squared. Okay, I'm still not ready to find the derivative because I've got x's in the denominator, which we don't want. So that's going to stay. Minus 1 over 2. 2 stays at the bottom, but the x comes to the top. Okay, and I've got 3, and this will become x to the negative 2. So at this point now, I'm ready to find my derivative. So I'm going to say equals. Anything without an x will fall away. Negative 1 multiplied to the front is now going to become positive 1 over 2, and it will become x to the, remember you subtract 1 from it, so it becomes x to the negative 2. And if I multiply negative 2 by negative 3, we get positive 6x, and that's negative 1, so I've got minus 3. Okay, and finally, we make our exponents positive by taking them back down or up, wherever we need to take them. And that is my answer. Okay, right, so those are dealing with sort of a couple of different variations of applying your rules of differentiation. Indy, would you be able to read that question for me of that one learner who sent in a question which is now also dealing with a different type of finding the derivative using your laws?
Okay, let me have a look.
Okay.
Derivative. Okay, well, I have one here from Z2. It's a different one. She says, will you lose marks if you don't put dy/dx when you are starting to derive?
Yes. Okay, your notation as far as calculus goes is actually quite important, guys. So watch out for that. If you are actually applying the rules of differentiation, then yes, you do need to put your derivative notation there. But if you're just simplifying the formula without applying any rules of differentiation, then you keep the original y or f of x or whatever it was there. So yeah, the step that you apply the rules is the step that you write the notation for your derivative. Okay.
Okay, I'm not too sure if this is the same question, but if it's not, I'll keep looking. This one's from Ashworth, and he says, so if I'm asked to point for a point of inflection while I have the coordinates of the turning point, can you find their midpoint instead of finding the second derivative?
No. With your points of inflection, Ashworth, find the second derivative and make it equal to naught. Okay, that's what they're wanting you to do. Follow that, okay, please. That's what the calculus method is asking of us. All right, so let's not play dangerously tomorrow. Let's just follow what we need to do, and point of inflection is your second derivative equal to naught. Okay.
Okay, I am still searching for that derivative question.
What I'm going to do is, it might not be the exact question that you asked. I'm not sure what the name of the learner who asked the question, but it's something along the lines of, so let me just see if I can answer it to the more or less what it was. Let's say I have x squared, I've got, and let's make sure I don't get this wrong, plus 1, and let's put underneath here x minus 1. Okay, the question you asked was more or less like that. Okay, now the reason I want to go over this is because it's slightly different to the question I've just done. Do you guys see that the difference is what I've just covered is that the denominator in this question was over just one term. Okay, so if it's over one term, I want you to split them and just simplify them each on their own, and then you can find the derivative. However, the problem here is that this is not one term, that's two terms. Okay, so you can't just split them and put them each over their own denominator. It's not going to get you anywhere. Okay, so if there's two terms down below, you need to factorize the numerator. Okay, you need to try and treat it as a trinomial, break it into 2 brackets. So I'm keeping it as y because I'm not finding the derivative yet. Okay? And what we will do is factorize. So I'm going to say x and x. I've got 1 and 1, both of which are going to be negative, and I've got x minus 1. Okay, so what you will then typically see is that 1 bracket on the numerator will actually cancel completely with the denominator, leaving you with just y equals x minus 1, which means that my derivative, my dy over my dx, would then, if my exponent there is 1, when it jumps to the front, it will become 1, and essentially I'm left with 1 minus 1, which is 0. Okay, so a very simple answer to this would land up being just 1. Okay, so I hope that that answers your question and that you guys are clear on that. All right, we do have a little bit of more calculus to look at. I know it's a big section. It's worth the marks in your exam. So let's just make sure that you guys are fully covered and clear on it. Okay. Right, another thing that we're going to have to look at is sketching a cubic graph. Okay, guys, this is also worth a lot of marks in your exam. And I want you to watch carefully because I'm going to go through the steps as swiftly as we can over here. All right, when sketching a cubic graph, the first thing I want you to determine is what shape are we potentially working with here. Because I've got a negative in front of my x cubed, I know that it's a decreasing function, so therefore it's going to look like so. Okay, it's a negative cubic graph. Step 2, I want you to identify your y-intercept, and that's always pretty easy because your y-intercept always just comes from letting x equal 0. And that would mean that it lands up just being the whole number at the end. So therefore, 0 and 18 is the y-intercept. Okay. Step 3, you are now going to identify your x-intercepts. Now, this is the step that involves a little bit of working out. To work out your x-intercepts, we start by saying, let y equal 0. So I'm letting y equal 0, and we've got negative x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x plus 18. Okay, because this is equal to 0, what's nice about that is I don't like the fact that there's a negative in front there, so let's get rid of it. So it becomes positive x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3x and minus 18. All right, and with that, now what we're going to do is we're going to try and factorize it. Now, guys, again, as I've said in the past, there are different methods to actually factorize a cubic function. The method I'm going to use is what we call synthetic division. Okay, it's not the only way to do it, so if you have learned a different method, stick to that if you're comfortable with it, and if you're not comfortable with it, have a look and see what I'm doing over here. You need to substitute a number. This is a little bit of a guessing game to start off with, into the x's, and we're looking for something that's going to give us 0. Okay? Now, because I've done this before, I know that the number I'm looking for is 2, but guys, you're obviously not necessarily going to know that. So you need to substitute numbers in. Whatever you sub in has got to be able to go into that last term. So whenever you've got an even number at the end, we pretty much know 2 is a good bet. And if positive 2 doesn't work, remember not to forget to try negative 2. Okay, so the idea is this. If I substituted 2 into all of my x's, okay, we land up getting 0. All right? And if we land up getting 0, that means that we can conclude that the bracket of x minus 2 is a factor. All right? So that's great. We've found one of the brackets, but remember this is a cubic equation, so we're actually trying to break it into 3 brackets. So that leaves me with the step where I need to determine how many times will x minus 2 go into my cubic equation, all right? The method of synthetic division, if you haven't learned it yet, is you take the coefficient. The coefficient, remember, is the term in front of the variables. And you take that and you write. So they take the coefficient of each of your terms and you write it inside a divide sign. So I've got negative 1 minus 4 plus 3 and plus 18 and if I've got x minus 2, remember positive 2 was the number that gave us a 0. With this method, we take the first term down as is. Okay, it doesn't change. I want you to take 2 and multiply it by -1, which is going to give you -2. -4 minus 2 is then leaving us with -6, which I'm going to multiply by my 2, and that's going to give me -12. 3 minus 12 is leaving us with -9. And if I multiply -9 by 2, I get -18. And what you always know, what's always nice, is that if you get naught there, you know you've done this correctly, okay? So therefore, I've got -x squared minus 6x minus 9. That's the one bracket there. Remember, the other factor was x minus 2. And this is all equal to naught, okay? Right, we almost finished here. I'm going to, first of all, change my signs. And again, I can do that because there's a naught on that side there. So I've got x squared, I've got plus 6x, and I've got plus 9. And if I factorize that bracket, that's going to give me x and x. I've got 3 and 3, and both of which are going to be positive. So we've concluded that I've got x-intercepts at 3 and at 2. Okay, right, so that's what we've got so far. There's still quite a bit of working out left in the sum, and I know we're due to have a short break, so I think take a minute to actually just go over what I've just done and make sure you're clear with that before we carry on with the question, and we're going to be back shortly.
Exactly. And guys, just remember to keep calm, keep focused, and send through those questions if there's anything that you are struggling with. We did manage to level up. We got to level 2, and now this is level 3. We are about to post it onto the page, and this is the next level you need, 24,126. But I want to know, there's something sneaky about that number, mathematicians. Let us know if you find the pattern. Post it onto our page, post it on to our post when we post the post, and we'll see you now after the break. Okay guys, welcome back. I hope that you're enjoying the show and you're learning more and you're learning extra. Don't forget to keep those questions coming in. We will try and help as many as possible. But guys, if you see a question that you understand and you know that you can help that mindset, so please do. This page is not just for us, it's not just for us, it's for all of us. So please help each other out. It's the final countdown, and it's all about working in a team. And sometimes you learn by teaching others at the same time too. There's something that you're really struggling with, helpdesk@learnextra.co.za if we don't get to your question on the page, because we understand that it is finals and the page is going crazy, the page is hot. So let's try and get through as much today as possible. I'm not going to take any more time away from you. Level 3 has been released. What is special about this number, mathematicians? I know that you guys know this. We need to reach 24,126 to unlock level 3 so we can choose the winner of this awesome PC training tablet. What is that, guys? And we will be announcing the winner of level 2 at the end of the show. Okay, Tamlin, I don't want to take any more time. Let's go.
Okay, right. We were in the middle of working out our cubic function. We worked out our y-intercepts. We've got our x-intercepts. I'm sure you now sitting there saying what we need is our turning points. Okay, so turning points is the 4th step in this whole process, and turning points, remember, is always derivative equals naught. Okay, so we're going to take our function. We need to remember what it is now. This is going to be, right, negative x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x plus 18. Negative x cubed minus 4x squared. Okay, negative x cubed minus 4x. Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to go back again. Plus 3x plus 18. Plus 3x plus 18. Okay, so derivative of that is going to be, negative 3x squared. I've got, that should be squared, minus 8x plus 3. And we're going to let that equal 0. All right. We're now sitting with negative 3x squared minus 8x plus 3. And again, as you can see, because you've got it equal to naught, you can drop your negative. So it becomes positive 3x squared plus 8x minus 3. And because it's equal to naught, I'm sure you guys all can see, my next step is to factorize. Okay, so I'm going to have to take factors of 3 from the front. I'm going to need my factors of 3 at the back. I'm looking for a plus 9 and a minus 1 to get me the 8 in the middle there, which means that I've got 2 answers for x here. I've got one which is a third, and I've got x, which is equal to -3, where we're going to sub them back in. We're going to sub it back into the original equation. Please remember that. Sub them back into the original equation, and you're going to work out your y-intercepts. Okay, so guys, in the interest of saving ourselves just a little bit of time, I'm not going to do that step because that's calculator work, which I'm sure you guys are all okay with. So just to quickly just give us a picture of more or less what our graph should then look like, is that we know we're going to have a y-intercept which was at 18. That was the y-intercept that we worked out in the very beginning. I had x-intercepts which we said was at 3 and 2. So let's put 2 here, let's put 3 here, okay? My turning points were at a third and at -3. Am I right with my just bear with me one sec. That's -3, right? That looks better. Okay. All right, so in fact, that's a -3. Always watch your signs. Okay. And all right, so third, that's going to be around about there, and -3, which is in fact right slap bang on that point over there. So we have a turning point which is going to be along here, and a turning point which is going to be along here. Okay. And finally, it was a negative function, which means it's going to start by decreasing. At this point over here, it is going to turn. It's going to come back up through your y-intercept, and quite soon after that, it's going to turn, and it's going to go back down through the last x-intercept, which was 2. All right. And once you've done that, guys, just please make sure you label properly. You're calling this your f, just your f. Yeah, no, not f of x. That's your f function. And just label, make sure you label points, okay? That's always important. Label your x and your y-axis. You don't want to give your marker any reason to not give you all your marks. So just make sure you've labeled it fully. Rather put a coordinate there than not, okay? So just make sure it's very clearly marked, okay? All right, guys, I think we've done enough calculus for now. What I'm going to have a look at is a quick finance question, and hopefully we'll have enough time for sequences and series as well, but let's see how we go. Okay, we're going to find our finance question, which is over here. Okay, this was actually a question that was sent in by one of our learners. Someone wanted us to go over this and to answer the question for them, so I hope you're watching, and I'm sure everyone else is grateful that you've asked it, because it's always a tricky section, this. Okay, a car that costs 130,000 Rand is advertised in the following way. No deposit necessary and first payment due 3 months after the date of purchase. So the interest rate is quoted at 18% per annum compounded monthly. And I know that sounds like quite a familiar thing. We see that kind of advert quite often out there. So let's work it out. Let's see, are they doing us a favor by deferring the payment, or are we actually losing out? Are we having to pay more at the end of the day? Let's see. Okay. The question says, calculate the amount owing 2 months after the first purchase date, which is 1 month before the first monthly payment is due, okay? Let's work out. If I've got 100 now, what we want to work out is what would the amount be if my principal loan amount was 130,000. And I'm wanting to work out if it was at 18% interest. Now, first of all, do not just write it as 18. You always have to divide it by 100. It's 18%, okay? And it says compounded monthly. So another thing, don't forget to divide that by 12, all right? And we're raising it to the power of. Now, they're wanting to know how much it is after 2 months. So remember, this n is representing the number of periods, and because we're compounding monthly, your periods are months, okay? So if we're only wanting to know how much is the amount accumulated to after 2 months, we're only raising it to the power of 2, okay? So let's take out our calculators, and let's work that out. So we've got 130,000. Brackets, I'm going to press my no. We got 1 first. 1 plus fraction 0.18, and I'm dividing that by 12 because it's compounded monthly, and we're raising it just to the power of 2. Okay, if you get an answer like that, remember, press your S to D button, and I've got 133,929.25. 133,929. 133,929.25. So that's how much money is has accumulated in the first 2 months. Okay, bearing in mind, you haven't made any payments, but don't forget that interest is still being accumulated, even though you actually haven't made any payments as such yet. So already it's not sounding like a good idea because interest is growing and you're not making any payments, so that amount is not getting any lower. Okay, so let's see. Now it says that, using the same advert, Herschel bought this car on the 1st of March 2009, and he made his first payments on the 1st of June 2009. Thereafter, he made another 53 equal payments on the first day of each month. If you're dealing with a timeline question, I always say it's a good idea to draw, or not a timeline, a finance question. A timeline always just helps us put into perspective what it is that we're working with. Term 1, if I'm talking about at the beginning, we've got the 1st of March. That's the first date that the car was bought on. Then we had the 1st of April and the 1st of May. And we at the 1st of June. And that's only when his first payment gets made. So let's call that X, because that's when he's making his first payments, okay? So what we've actually worked out is that after 2 months, we worked this out in the previous question, the amount of money that's sitting there is 133,929.25. 133,929 rand and 25 cents. Okay, so this is how much has accumulated in those first 2 months without any payments. Okay, so now at the next payment, or at the next period, he's going to make a payment. So this is now where we can start kicking in and working out his payment schedule. Okay. When we are working out repayments of a loan, guys, we are working with present value annuities. If you are working where you are saving money towards a greater amount, that is when you are working with your future value annuities. So if they mention anything to do with Jane, who deposits 200 Rand every month from her 20th birthday to her 60th birthday, how much money does she have? That's a future value annuity, okay? But Jane's bought a house and she's paying off that loan over how many years? Present value annuity, okay. All right, so our present value annuity formula, we've got our X, we've got 1 minus 1 plus I to the negative N over I. Okay. Now, all right, this is where we actually are at the moment. That's the present value of the loan, okay. So 133,929 Rand and 25 cents is actually now the current present value. What we're trying to work out is what is his monthly payment. So the monthly payment is represented by that X over there. So this is what we're actually trying to work out. I've got 1 minus, okay, my interest rate, remember, was 18%, and it's compounded monthly, so don't forget to put it over 12, okay? Now, watch out for your wording in a finance question. Wording can be very, very deceiving. He's making his first payment on the 1st of June. And after that, it said he made another 53 payments. So in total, Herschel is making 54 payments, okay? So we're raising it to the negative 54. All right. And all of this is over our interest rate, which was 0,18 over 12. Okay. Right, now guys, it's a case of just being careful with that calculator again. This is what we've got. We've got the 133,929, which in fact, okay, let's clear that for a second. To work this out, the first thing I would do is let's take what's in the denominator here. Let's take the 0,18 over 12 and multiply it up by your 133,929, okay? So 133,929 Rand and 25 cents. And I'm going to multiply that by 0.18 over 12. Right, that's giving us 2008 93875. Be very careful, guys, about rounding off with finance, okay? Because you're working with quite large amounts of money, a small rounding off can actually quite drastically affect your answer. So the only time I want you to really round off is in the final answer. Okay, don't round off in the middle of your sum. So let's just write that here. 2009 3875. 2008 2008, 93875. 93875. Okay. All right. Now that leaves us with on the other side with, let's take this away so it doesn't get in our way. Okay, so that's now gone. We've multiplied it on the other side. What I would now do, guys, is let's actually work out what this bracket's answer is over here. Okay, that's going to be our next step. So let's clear our calculator. And we've got 1, I've got 1 minus. I had another bracket of 1 plus. We had our fraction of 0.18 over 12. And that was being raised to the power of negative 54. Okay, and that was all being closed. So that's giving us 0.552. Okay, so it's giving us quite a big decimal over here. I'm not going to clear my calculator. I want to keep all those values there. So all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to write 0.552 and put dot, 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 just to indicate that there are actually other decimal places there. But then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to just straight type in 2008.93875. 0.93875, and I'm going to divide it by the answer that I had in the calculator previously. And can you guys see that that's getting me to 3,636 rand and 36 cents? So 363636. Okay, so how much is he paying per month? That's his monthly payment, based on the fact that, remember, he only started paying 3 months after he bought the car. So the follow-on question from here is to actually then work out what effect does it have on the monthly repayment if you don't have a deferred payment, if you actually start paying for the car 1 month after you buy it, which is probably what we should be doing, hey? Okay. All right. Guys, again, this is going to take a bit of working out, so we're going to have a short break. Go back over that question. Make sure you're understanding it. If you have a moment, look at some other finance questions, and we'll go over this next part of it shortly.
Okay, guys, it's time for a break. It's really important that you go and get yourself some water, jump around a bit, get your brains refreshed and ready for the rest of the show. Make sure that you post your questions on the page, and we will go through as many as we can. And, we'll see you now after the break. Hi guys, welcome back. So now we've got this box which is full of all of the entries. I think we had around 800 shares, 868 shares, and what we'll be doing is we'll be picking out the name in the next few minutes, but I want Tamlin to go over this question now and finish it first, okay? So Tamlin, take it away.
Right, this is really relevant because I'm sure many of us have looked at buying cars and things, and that deferred payment is quite tempting, but let's see if it actually works out for us, okay? The next guy comes along with the same advert, and he wants to now before we do that, we wanted to know the total amount of Herschel's payments. So let's quickly just actually work that out. His monthly payment was 3636,36, and he's making a total of 54 payments. So there's nothing too complicated about working that one out. We're just going to times the answer by 54. So 196,363,66, 196, you've got to remember these. 196, 36366. 36366. So that's how much money he's paying for his car, although it actually was only an original loan of 130 rand. Okay, it makes you realize how scary taking loans can actually be. All right, so now let's actually look at the next part. Hashim comes along and he also buys the same car for 130 rand. He takes out the same loan for same interest rates, all the same values. The only difference here is that he is making his first payment 1 month after he purchases the car. Okay, so let's work out what his situation is going to be. His present value, if he takes out the car straight away, is going to be 100. If he takes the loan and starts paying it straight away, is 130,000. So therefore 130,000 is going to be your present value. We don't know what his monthly payment is, but we're going to work out 1 plus our interest rate, which was 0.18 over 12. It's still compounded monthly, and he's still making 54 payments. Okay, all right, so that's what we've got over there, and it's all over our 0.18 over 12. All right. Similar method of working out. We're going to take our 130,000 and we're going to multiply it by the fraction. So 130,000 multiplied by our interest rate of 0.18 over 12. And we get 1,950. Okay, fine. So 1950. All right. And this is equal to, so again, I'm going to run into that, so let's rather take it out. We're going to have x, and again, let's work out the value of my bracket over here. So the value of our bracket was 1 minus, I've got 1 plus my interest rate of 0.18. It's over 12, and it's to the power of negative 54. Okay. And that gave us our 0.552, the same as what we had earlier, in fact. So 0.552. 552, and we're just going to say dot, dot, dot. Okay? So to work out what we're going to, the final amount, we're going to take our 1950, okay? 1950, and you're going to divide it by the answer that was in your question, and we're getting 3529. So do you guys see that, in fact, Hashim's amount, his monthly payment, was less than Herschel's. Herschel took the deal, but he landed up having to pay more every month because that amount accumulated in the first 2 months where Hashim didn't. Okay. Right, so 3,529 Rand. And in fact, if I times that by 54, we get 190,602, which although is still a lot to pay if the original loan was only 130,000, it was less than our original, the first guy who deferred his payments. Okay. Guys, the things to go back and check for, just while you're going to finish off your revision tonight, make sure you practice things like balance on a loan. Okay, go back through your notes and check balance on a loan. Check your future value annuities, and also things like changing nominal to effective interest rates, all of that, which came from your grade 11 work, okay? So just to remind you that those are the certain things that you need to be looking out for. All right. Is it draw time?
Oh, I'm so nervous. Oh my gosh. Okay, it is draw time. Okay, Tamara, I'm going to need you to come and help me here. Okay, have a little scratch around in
So
there.
look away.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then you, because I don't even know who this winner is yet, guys. So, okay.
Right.
Are you going to read it out?
Snaz.
Snazor Sita.
Well
Snazor.
done. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well done, Snazor. Please send us your email. No, actually, you know what? Email us win@learnextra.co.za with your physical address, and we will get you this awesome PC training tablet.
Very cool.
To you. Thank you so much, PC Training, for sponsoring this
Fantastic.
awesome prize, because it's an awesome learning material as
That
well.
really is.
Yeah,
Really is.
yeah. And guys, what we need to do is now we need to unlock level 3, and then we will be able to announce the winner of level 3. And what you need to do is you need to find that level 3 post.
Mm-hmm.
They need to share it with your friends, somebody that you haven't shared it with yet, please, guys. And then we wait for the numbers to increase, and as soon as we get there, we will be able to announce who the winner is
Cool.
next. Okay.
Right, Indy, I've still got 5
Go,
usable
go,
minutes, so I'm
go.
going to use them.
Watch Tamlin.
Okay. Right, something that we haven't really had a moment to look at today yet, so let's see if we can do it, is some sequences and series. So I literally have time to go through one, so let's choose sigma. Okay, it's always something that could come up, so let's have a look at it. Remember, sequences and series, if you see a sigma, you know that it means sum of, okay? And sigma is essentially, you can very much break it down into 3 quite distinct steps, okay? With sigma, first step is that what you are going to do is you are going to find your first 3 terms. And you're going to do that by taking what's at the bottom here and subbing it into your equation. So I've got a 3 times 1 plus 1, which is going to give me 4. That's term 1. To work term 2, I'm going to say 3 times 2 plus 1, which is going to be 6, and that extra 1 is 7. And term 3 is 3 times 3 plus 1, which is going to be 10. Okay, so by doing that, guys, you can immediately see what your first term is, which I know is always important because you need to know what A is. And once you've done that, you can work out a common difference or a common ratio. We don't know if this is arithmetic or geometric. However, by working out your 3 terms, I can quite clearly see that I've got a common difference, which is actually 3. Okay, so that's step 1 of sigma. Of sigma. Step 2 is then, in fact, identifying. So I've jumped the gun. That's my step 2, okay, is identifying your A and your D. So step 3 is then to sub it into your SN formula. If you've got arithmetic, you've got your N over 2 2a plus n minus 1d. And what have we got? We're trying to work out, now remember the number of terms that you're adding up is normally what's up at the top over here. Just to remind you, please watch out. If the number down below here is not 1, you need to take the top number minus the bottom number plus 1 to determine how many terms you are adding up. Okay, so please remember that. Very quickly, I just want to explain myself. So let's say I've got 10 and I've got p equals 3, okay? If that's the case, the number of terms you are adding up is not going to be 10. It's 10 minus 3, which is 7, plus 1, which is 8. Okay, so please watch out for that, because there could definitely be a little curveball that they could throw at you. In this case here, we haven't got n. They didn't give that to us. But what they did give to us is that, in fact, the total sum of the whole sequence is, or the series at least, is 650. So what I know is that, in fact, the whole series is equal to 650. It's the n which we don't know. The a we knew already is 4. The n again is what we don't know, but the common difference was 3. One difference was 3. Okay, so this is now what we are sitting with. Okay, I would love to get through this whole question with you guys. In fact, if I could spend the next 3 hours here with you, I would. But unfortunately, you guys have now got to go and finish all of this and practice it yourselves. From here, if you have a question like this, guys, it's going to result in a quadratic equation. You're going to solve for n. And just remember, if you are solving for n, your n represents the number of terms. Okay, so your number of terms cannot be a fraction, and it cannot be negative. So when you work out a sum such as this, and you get the 2 answers for n, you've got to choose the one that's a positive whole number. Okay, the other one generally will be a fraction or a negative, and you immediately know that that one doesn't work. It's the positive whole number that's going to work for you. Okay, right. You guys we're handing it over to you now. You guys are going to have to go and really put in that time and that work. I know you have already. So it's a case of just tying up a few loose ends. And I wish you every little bit of the best for tomorrow. I hope that it goes so well and that all your hard work pays off.
Okay, so mindsetters, I can't believe it that we've only got a few seconds left. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. And keep your heads up. The long road is nearly over. You can do it. And don't forget to support each other and always ask for help if you need it. We are here. Your parents are here and your teachers are there to help you through this journey. Matric is nearly over, and good luck. Guys, for tomorrow, you're going to do absolutely great. Help each other on the page. This is also your community. Well done to Snazo again. Thank you so much to Liberty for making this show possible. You guys rock, and it's amazing. Level 3 now is going to be unlocked. We have posted the challenge, and what you need to do is you need to find the post where it says we need 24,126 likes. Thank you guys. What an awesome show. Bye.